Well, this segment is brought to you by our good friends at the ABQ Free Press. There was a merger a few months ago. Albuquerque Arts and Entertainment magazine merged with ABQ Free Press, and now you still get all the great arts and entertainment coverage mixed in with a good dose of investigative journalism at ABQ Free Press. So we thank them for bringing us this segment, and I always love interviewing local authors, and we have a lot of them. The community is full of talented authors, and we have one with us today. 16 books, is that right, Lynne?
It is right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Lynne Hinton is with us today, and her latest book is out. It's called Sister Eve, Private Detective Myself. You're an interesting person, Lynne, because in your day job, if I can call it that, you are a chaplain for a hospice.
I am.
Wow.
Yes.
What amazing work you do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
How long have you been a minister?
Gosh, I guess I was ordained 20 years ago. Went to Berkeley to seminary, Berkeley, California.
Yes.
So I've pastored churches and then also worked as a chaplain.
Now, 16 books. You've probably been at that for quite a while, too.
I have
Authoring
been, yes. And some years I can make it writing full-time, but then those other years I fall back on the other profession that I have.
Very interesting.
Wonderful.
So, this is a brand new book. It's a series?
It is. This is the first one in the series. So it is the Divine Private Detective Agency, and it is about a nun who's kind of struggling with her vocation as to whether she's meant to stay a nun or work with her father, who's a private detective, and she finds she has some real passion about solving crimes. So not quite sure whether she's going to stay a nun or help her dad out full-time.
Well, that's a storyline you can develop.
Exactly.
She's going to be conflicted a lot.
There's
right?
a lot of conflict for her, exactly.
And she has a little talent for that.
She does. She discovers when she goes back home to take care of her father, who has complications from a surgery, and she becomes involved in his case, and she realizes she sort of likes this and has some energy around it in a way she hasn't in a while at the convent. So she's not quite sure, you know, which to follow. And yes, she does have some gift in being able to solve some mysteries.
As you counsel with families and patients in hospice, that work is tremendous. How much of that carries over into your writing?
Well, obviously being a minister, confidence is pretty important, and maintaining confidentiality is very important, but you can't help but be affected by people's stories, and
yes.
So often the emotions that people feel are what I enjoy writing about, and that kind of emotional landscape that all humans have. And so those stories I think I sort of soak up and am interested in, but certainly try not to, you know, reveal complete factual stories in the way that I experienced them as a chaplain.
And then the family dynamic is so rich. There's, you know, every family has such a personal, you know, situation.
Right, right.
So it's got to be a wellspring of inspiration for you.
It is, and especially at the time of end-of-life experiences. Yeah, you learn a lot about people and connections and their relationships and function and dysfunction, and yeah, you're right there on the front seat of people's lives.
So I'm wondering, Sister Eve, here she is a nun. What, from leading that spiritual life, from being a nun, what does she bring to the crime-solving world?
That's a great question.
Does the spiritual sense translate into being a good detective?
I think as I've been working on the second book, I thought more about what is it that being a nun could bring to that field, and what I decided is just the aspect of listening well, and not always needing to be the one to be the talker, but you know, the one who's able to listen closely, and in listening closely you sort of hear clues, whether that's about people's lives or whether or not they just killed someone.
Is she a strong woman?
She is strong, but she's also still kind of concerned about how she appears to others, but she's part of why she's wondering if she went to the convent is whether she's concerned she's going to turn out like her dad, who's quite a angry, brusque kind of ex-police officer. So part of why she's determining that she went was to sort of restrain that part of herself. So that's part of what she's working with in her own life.
And as a nun, they probably don't see her coming either.
Right, true. She also, that is another aspect of, I think, her vocation that's helped in solving crimes, is sort of being okay and being in the background. Yeah.
Is there some prayer involved in trying to solve some of this?
There's prayer involved in writing it and finding
Good
a publisher. Yeah. So not so much for the character as much as for me.
And this is not your only book that you brought today. You also have a book called The Art of Arranging Flowers.
Right.
Also a novel.
That's a novel, huh?
It is.
It's not a how-to do-it-yourself book.
No, I really don't know much about arranging flowers, but it is about a florist in a small town, and I discovered that florists tend to know a lot about people's lives, and especially in a small town, they know who died, who's had a birth in the family, birthdays,
who's
weddings.
Getting married, yeah.
Exactly, and
Sure.
What couple where the husband and the wife were fighting, and he's come to buy flowers. And I've always thought that florists were very discreet about knowing that information. So
Great
this one came
angle.
out in June.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you.
Great angle. So what else are you working on right now?
Just finishing with the second mystery with Sister Eve, and this time she goes to Las Vegas, so it's kind of a fish out of water
I
story.
would say.
Yes, so she actually kind of enjoys that a little bit. She's looking for her sister who's gone missing, so that's the second book.
I can see this as a movie or TV series.
Great, Larry, hook me up. Yes.
I really can.
Hook her up. Hook her up.
I think it would be a great series.
Thank you.
It's a great angle that you've developed. A wonderful character. And this is a character you can develop over many, many books.
Right. Maybe she falls in love. Who knows?
Oh, my goodness.
Scandal.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, things can happen.
Lynne, you're so prolific. Can you give us some insight as to how you get yourself writing, just on the writing process?
Well, that is the easiest thing to do, because truly I feel I am most engaged in life when I'm writing. So that part is easy, just to take the time and to allow the story to kind of come through instead of trying to force things to happen. And there's so many stories out there. So that part is actually the easy part for me. The harder part is trying to sell it to publishers or doing the marketing or the editing. So
who is your publisher?
For The Art of Arranging Flowers, it's Berkeley Books of Random House, and then the Sister Eve book is HarperCollins.
Wonderful. Those are big
Excellent.
names.
New York Times best-selling author. That's what it says here. This is great.
Isn't this great?
From
It was
Albuquerque.
a long time ago, and I was on the extended list, but they say that still counts.
Absolutely. It definitely still counts.
Yeah, thank you.
You personally, you said you worked in churches and things as an ordained minister, but why did you choose hospice work? What guided you there?
I find that people who are near death and their families tend not to waste a lot of time. And sometimes I find in churches there's a lot of time spent on fussing about the color of the carpet or who's going to be on a committee. And I find in hospice, with facing end-of-life decisions and that experience, that people are very real and honest, and there's something very intriguing to me about that. So I prefer the honesty and authenticity that you find with people at that time in their lives.
My
It's really
goodness.
beautiful, the vulnerability. And every single moment is precious.
It is. And that's another reason I like hospice, is because it really does affect how I live each day. And when I wake up in the morning, just glad to have a day ahead of me and not having family who is sick and not having to go to the hospital. And, sometimes we...
Just telling the people in your life that you love them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not wasting
because
time.
It's all precious. Wow,
It
it's
is.
wonderful to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
It's
listen,
lovely to meet you
it's wonderful
both.
to meet
Incredible.
you. Thank you. Lynne Hinton with us today, author, and the new book is called Sister Eve, Private Eye. It's the start of a new series, and it sounds fascinating. We want to thank ABQ Free Press for the segment today, and we thank you, Lynne, for being on our show. It's the Morning Brew. We continue. Amber and I will be right back after this.